I have this bad habit of being kind of overprotective of the people who come under my tutelage or under my mentorship. And even though I only know a few of you personally, most of you I've never met, but I still feel a real responsibility to protect you from stuff that's out there that looks really good, but it's really, really bad. In fact, that's probably why sometimes you feel kind of trapped or overwhelmed and confused. And the strange part is, you and I already have the keys to get out of these things. For a long time, I didn't know that. I do now. And so if you're feeling trapped, or if you're not now, you will soon, because that's just how life is. But the good news is this. I have some ideas on not only why it happens, but how you can get out of it. So stick around, because today you're listening to a kind of overprotective and angry Larry Marino here on the Misfit Mentor. Welcome to the Misfit Mentor. I'm Dr. Larry Marino, and for over 30 years I've mentored people like you. We do it by telling true stories with helpful life lessons that give real guidance for your journey. I have lived a misfit life for a long time, and I can tell you one thing. At some point, we all need a mentor. I hope you'll think of me as your Misfit Mentor. Well, we sure do welcome you here today to episode 5 of season 2. And as I said at the beginning, I kind of got to watch myself today, because this topic is about the traps that are out there, and they're so bad, and at the same time they appear to be so good. In fact, they appear so good that when you first hear them, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, Larry, I thought I was supposed to do such and such. And you're going to find out after today that you need this awareness not to fall into this stuff. And again, I'm kind of, Aristotle once said, it's the wise man who knows how to use his anger. So I'm trying to channel my anger about this into something that I think will be helpful for all of you. So there's a number of them, so I'm going to get right to it. All right, so let's talk about the first trap. It's called the self-esteem trap. The motto for the self-esteem trap is, I just want to feel good about myself. Why does it happen? Because we think we're supposed to have good self-esteem, but it's actually not true at all. Now, I'm going to be quoting a person, and you should know that I'm not affiliated with Robert Fritz, and he's not affiliated with me. Never met him before. But I do appreciate his books, and I always feel like I'm supposed to be a bit of a clearinghouse for you, because I know that you're all so busy, you don't have time to read every book that comes along. But if you can get something from an author, and I can pass it on to you, I think that's a good service to provide. So anyway, in this book, it's called Creating by Robert Fritz. He tells a true story. Now listen to the story. His high school kid comes home one day with a bunch of papers, and the teacher gave him these papers from health class. And here's what the paper says. I'm reading right from the book. Why is self-esteem important? To a large extent, it determines people's behavior. People's behavior is usually closely related to how they feel about themselves. For example, if you believe you can be successful at many things you try, chances are you will try more and more things and get better at doing them in the process. Self-esteem is one of the factors in increased motivation, involvement in learning, and successful performance in relationships and occupations. People who do not have positive feelings may suffer from feelings of unworthiness, inadequacy, helplessness, inferiority, and a sense of an inability to improve their situation. Unlike the person who believes he or she can be successful, those without positive feelings often feel they will fail. All right, now, do you see how good this sounds? And I'm sure everybody is going, well, gee, I didn't hear anything wrong with that, Larry. Look, the whole premise is set up to destroy you. Now, look, I am not saying that people who got into this want to destroy you. It just happens to be that the whole self-esteem idea does destroy people. That doesn't mean that the people who came up with it are evil or bad. But I think they were extremely misguided. In fact, they even gave kids, I'm not making this up, they gave kids self-esteem assessments. And I'm going to read some of the questions they're supposed to ask. Listen to this. Now, this is for high school seniors, I guess. Here are the questions. People generally like me. I'm comfortable talking in class. I like to do new things. I give in very easily. I'm a failure. I hate the way I look. I have trouble making up my mind. I am popular with people at school. My life is all mixed up. I often feel upset at home. I often wish I were someone else. I often worry. I can be depended on. I often express my views. I think I'm doing okay with my life. I feel good about what I've accomplished recently. Now, remember, these are young people. Now, think about this. If a student is not well-liked or doesn't like to talk so much in class and maybe not so happy with how they look and is indecisive and not so popular and, the home life is not that great and he worries. I mean, doesn't that sound like it's just an everyday teenage experience? What teenager wouldn't say, yeah, I really don't want to be me. I'd rather trade with Post Malone or somebody. I mean, come on. It's so sad because it would be funny otherwise, but it's too sad because too many people go for it. Now, here's what happens. It creates a kind of a feeling, and here it is. You get misled into thinking that if I have self-esteem, I can have success. Here's the problem, though. I have never found anybody who has positive self-esteem. The people who wrote this don't have positive self-esteem. Nobody has ever had positive self-esteem. I've read the biographies of all kinds of great people that I would trade places with, and they have horrible self-esteem. One of my heroes, I've talked about it before, Mother Teresa, she had the worst self-esteem of all time. And here they are telling us self-esteem determines success. So that's the first thing that's wrong with this. Secondly, they make it out like if you have doubts, whoa, now you're really in trouble. If you don't have positive feelings toward yourself. But who doesn't suffer from this? This is just a human thing. Number 3, this is the worst part. They make you think you must adopt their ideal of what it means to be successful. Now, who are they to tell you how to do this? This is not a cool thing to do to people. It's like, well, if you have good self-esteem, now you got your ticket to success. Nonsense. And then, and this is where it gets really poisonous, the big goal of your life becomes having good feelings about yourself instead of creating the things you ought to be creating. Do you see how bad it is? And I know that every single person in the world has fallen into this, including me. Nobody's above falling into it. But now that you know, please stay out of the self-esteem trap. It doesn't help you to create what you are trying to create. I don't care if it's a book, a piece of art, a family, a business, a restaurant, a college degree, whatever it is. You're trying to create a result. And by focusing on positive self-esteem, that's going to take you way off track. Stay out of it. Okay, here's another one. The authenticity trap. Here's their motto. And I'm not making up these words. Listen very closely. I got these right off the site. Being authentic means you are being yourself at the very deepest possible level, the level of true spirit. Your mindset, your behaviors or actions, your ways of being in the world are guided by your true nature, not by the dictates and rules of society or the particular group or individual you are with at the time. And what the heck does that mean? Of course, a lot of people would be in a room saying, "Oh, wow, that sounds so great." And me, like the idiot, would say, "Well, I don't get it." And then what would happen is 2 or 3 others would say, "Well, yeah, I don't think I get it either." And then the guy who said it would probably say, "Yeah, I don't think I get it either." See, the reason people talk like this, listen closely, is because they have a belief that they themselves are fake and phony. And no matter how authentic they try to be, whatever that means, it's never enough. It's never enough. In fact, why else would anybody wash brain themselves like this unless they believe they were inauthentic, fake, and phony? See, there's a thread that's running through all of this. Here it is. The more you try to do this silliness, the more you reinforce in yourself that you can't feel good about yourself, or you can't feel authentic because nobody knows what that really feels like. So they put a lot of crazy words. I once watched a webinar. I'm not making this up. I'm watching a webinar, and there's these really smart people, I think they were philosophy students, and they were asking Robert Fritz about their writing about philosophy. And this one girl, she seemed so smart, and you kind of had to feel sorry for her because she said, "Well, Dr. Fritz, thank you for coming on our webinar, and I wanted to ask you, when you write, how do you get to the truly authentic?" And Fritz said, "I don't think I know what you're talking about." Well, she's trying to help him now. "Well, when you're writing at the level of true spirit," she said. And he said, "I don't believe that all of that is necessary to write about philosophy, and I've written a number of books on philosophy." So the kid was kind of like, "Oh, I thought that was a good question," I thought. And I hope it helped for her to see that that's really not a thing that real creative people who write, people who paint, people who do business, they don't think about this kind of stuff. It's just not important. So I really want you to get that every single trap is designed to make it sound like, oh, now you're going to get out of this bad self-esteem, or you're going to get out of feeling inauthentic. But in fact, the way our minds work, it will reinforce the feeling that I have too many doubts to have good self-esteem, and I'm too fake and phony to be authentic. You don't want to do that. That's really, really bad. Now, I talked about some traps. Now, let me talk about some things that people always tell you to do the opposite of what I'm going to tell you, because nobody ever really thinks this through. They just kind of go with what sounds good. So here's what I'm going to tell you. First, don't be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room. Let me say it again. Don't be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room. Now, I know somebody, maybe all of you are saying, okay, we're not going to listen anymore because Larry is telling us the very thing that we've been told since we were little, never be the dumb person in the room. Now, please hear me. I know it sounds risky, and it is, but it's worth it. Because get this, by being the dumbest person in the room, you get to do what no one else is doing. You get to learn. You ever notice how school in so many situations is not really about learning anything? It's about me performing to show people how smart I am. When I went to grad school, I was really, I wasn't very well educated, formally educated when I went to grad school. And I was just flabbergasted by how many times the students, my colleagues, were constantly trying to perform in class and show their smarts. My blessing, if you want to say it that way, was I really didn't know how to do that. I was really there to learn because I didn't have much formal education. And I am backed up here by Arthur Schopenhauer, who, as you know, was a great 19th century philosopher. And I think I'm right about this, he's probably one of the first Western philosophers who incorporated Eastern philosophy into his writing and his thinking. And he said, do not flaunt your smartness, for human beings will end up hating you. It's just true. Some guys invited me out to drinks, and at first I wanted to say no recently. But then when I thought about the two guys who are going to be there and how brilliant these guys are, and they're much younger than me, but they're brilliant, and I thought, I'm going to be the dumbest guy at the table. I'm going to go. I always learn, and I hope you will do that too. And here's the other thing I want you to get to while we're at it, because this is always built on some fear of something, I guess looking stupid or whatever. But, being afraid and feeling afraid are not the same thing. Let me give an example. Every human being all the time is afraid from morning till night. Now, sometimes middle schoolers like to pretend that they aren't, but they're middle schoolers and, they got to be cool. So what you have to get is that everybody is scared all the time. Of what? Just name something, they're scared of it. But some of us don't allow the fear to be the boss. And the other thing you have to do is this. You want to move in the direction of the fear. And I know that sounds wrong again. Sounds like, well, no, when I'm fearful, that means go the other direction. No, actually not. I mean, unless a lion is chasing you, of course. But, for the stuff that you and I deal with, that kind of anxious stuff about this and that and whatever, you will find if you move in that direction, I've said it 1,000 times, the fear underneath it is a sense of excitement and almost kind of happiness about the fact that, wow, I'm really going to do something that I've been wanting to do. This has been backed up by all kinds of wonderful, creative people. They look for the thing they're most scared of, and they do that. All right, here's another one. In the Hallmark movies, the girl is nervous to say hi to the guy, but then her friend calls, and what does she say on the phone? Don't worry, you got this. And then she says, wow. And then the music plays, and she gets over their fear, and then, they get married. But in real life, that's not how it happens. In fact, in real life, they always make it out like the guy is chasing the girl, but in real life, it doesn't happen that way. The girls always chase the guys. And here's the other thing. In real life, when you say stuff like, you got this, I've said it before, you're not helping your friends. They feel worse when you say that. In the movies and everything, they always seem like they're really, now I can do it. I couldn't before you said that, but now that you said you got this, now I feel like I got this. So I'm going to go do this now. Bye. But it doesn't really happen that way. When you say, you got this, I was talking to a kid in the supermarket, the stock boy guy, and I said, hey, you play basketball? He said, yeah. And I said, when they say, you got this, man. He said, I don't like when they say it. See, he didn't like it because why? It makes him too nervous. Don't say you got this to people. they feel worse. Now, you see all the games that I've been talking about, and all these, I guess somebody called them compensating behaviors that we do to try to make ourselves into good people. Now, I didn't say that you should not try and make things better in the world. I didn't say that. I said the compensating behaviors that you do sort of don't make the world better. You only do it because we think we're bad and we're trying to prove to ourselves that we're good because, see, we do these good things and we say these wonderful things. See, you only really make things better when you stay focused on what you want to create. I just talked to a guy today who for 2 years could not figure out what he wanted to do. Today, he knows what it is, and he totally has changed. He knows that it has nothing to do with how he feels or what his self-esteem is or any of that stuff. He knows where he's going. He knows what the result looks like. That's what you've got to do. Because believe me, a lot of people spend their whole life trying to fix the problem of their shortcomings. And because they're not living up to their ideals. And I know there's another word, see, but I thought we're supposed to be idealistic. Yeah, sort of. But those are things that sort of happen as you're doing the creative process and doing the goal, see? But if that's your big focus, like working on my ideals, oh boy. And that leads to the next trap, because somebody is saying, aren't I supposed to be working on my shortcomings? That's a trap. Now, here's the deal. We misfits really fall into this one because we feel we have a lot of shortcomings or inadequacies because, as I've said many times, our families and some of our friends are not so supportive of us and what we want to do. So we figure, well, we better work on these shortcomings. And while you're doing it, here's the problem. You think you're involved in a creative process, but you are not. You're just trying to solve a problem. The problem, fixing your inadequacies, which is a real loser because you're never going to be able to do that. I mean, why is it you talk to all these great people who do all these great things and they always feel like schmucks? Now, I am not saying whether or not you should feel like a schmuck or whether you are one. Here's what I'm saying. I know that every human being believes themselves to be, and they're trying to constantly prove that they're not bad. But that's a loser proposition. Now, here's a famous motto, and misfits use it a lot. If only I had the support of my family and my friends. I hope you have not used that. You know why? You don't need the support of your family and friends. Would it be nice? Yes, of course. Is it necessary? No, not even a little bit. See, I'm free to do what I want, and so are you. I can bring certain things into creation because I want to. And other people can either support me or not. You know why? Because they're also free to do that. And it's not right to play it both ways. I mean, if there was a third person, when you said, well, you know, my family, they don't support me in this and this, the third unbiased person would say, okay, let me get this straight. You're saying you're free to do what you want, but they're not. Doesn't work. If you're free to live life the way you want and you want to create something, they're free to not support it. you have to be fair. Now let's talk about your goal or goals. Do you want to create the things you want to create? I hope the answer is yes. And when you think about what it is you want to create, you should be able to say, I want to create this college degree, or this business, or this family, or this book, or this painting, or this song, whatever it is. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. In your behavior, are you into some of these things that I talked about? Are you into self-esteem and authenticity and, you got this, and all these silly things working on your shortcomings? If you're doing this, this really upsets me because I know what will happen to you if you stay that way. So now I got to ask you, do you see the conflict? That it is just basically all about you and your feelings. You say you want to go somewhere, you want to do this. Well, then why all the other stuff? Do you see how your feelings and your thoughts and your inner life has just taken over? And I'm never going to tell people that they shouldn't pay attention to their insides. I would never say that because it's important. But not like this. This gets you further and further away from where you say you want to go. And as a mentor, that's all I can do. All I can do is help you get where you said you wanted to go. I'll be back with some life lessons about this right after this. This show is a part of a group called G2G. We're a nonprofit group doing humanitarian work in Eastern Europe with Roma Gypsies, and we also produce this show. So, if you'd like to be a part of our work, you can go to misfitmentor.com, hit the Support Us button, and you can make a tax-deductible gift right there. Thank you very much. Okay, we're back with life lessons that we can pull out of this. Number one, our old friend Soren Kierkegaard said it. He said, action is genius. And it took me years to try and understand that. I still don't think I do. But feeling like you did something and actually doing it is not the same thing. And I really am afraid that we're living in a world where a lot of times someone is convincing you that if you could feel like you did it, or a lot of the tip-off would be when I talk to young people and ask them about certain things and they say, wow, that would feel amazing. Well, then I know that's basically all they care about. They don't really want to do the thing. They want the amazing feeling, which will last about 5 seconds, and then we'll be off to some other problem. So that's number one, action, not feelings. Number two, I don't know if you guys have this problem so much, but fortune cookie wisdom is not so smart. And you look anything but smart when you post fortune cookie wisdom. Okay? Thank you. Here's a good one. Here's a life lesson. And it's so simple. You've probably watched American Idol. And you'll note that when they come to the audition and they sing, and the three of them say, you are going to Hollywood, and they come out and they fall down crying their faces off, you know they're not going to go far. You know why? Because for them, all they wanted was to get a little validation from Lionel. And they got it, and that was it. And now they can die happy people. Because after that, you'll notice the judges say things like, boy, you were so great that day in the first audition, and now what's going on, man? And of course, it's simple. They really don't want to put the work in. However, notice the people who pass the audition and say, okay, thank you very much. I'm going to work hard for you. Those people usually win or get to the top 3. I never saw I've been watching that show for a long time. I don't think I ever saw a crier. Somebody who just goes nutty, falling on the ground, crying, ever win. Because they don't really care about stuff like that. So remember, if you reach the top of the mountain after one step, you're climbing the wrong mountain. And if it's about some amazing feeling or getting some validation, just watch any episode of American Idol and you'll see these people all over the country. You'll see them. Remember, you're not about just having some amazing emotional experience. I'm not saying that, having it is bad, but it would be great if you had it because you climbed the mountain or you did the thing, not because somebody said that was good. That really doesn't get you anywhere. And then number 4, your self-esteem has nothing to do with your creative process. People who thought terrible things about themselves have done the greatest things the world has ever known. And that's what can happen for you. But stop thinking about your self-esteem. Well, thank you for letting me be an old, overprotective mentor today, because I really want you to heed these warnings, because if you don't heed the warnings I gave you today, you will threaten your chances of getting ahead. Today, very grateful for the people who help us. Our executive producer, John Crable. Our producer, Adam Marino, here with us in the studio. The wonderful people of WELT 95.7 in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm your host, Larry Marino. And I have to say, I feel better. We'll see you next time. God bless you.